D'Artagnan thought a moment, and then went to the wardrobe in which hung his old clothes. He looked for his Daubelt of the year 1648, and as he had orderly habits, he found it hanging on its nail. He felt in the pocket and drew from it a paper. It was the letter of Aramis. "Monsieur d'Artagnan, you know that I have had a quarrel with a certain gentleman, who has given me an appointment for this evening in the Place Royale, as I am of the Church, and the affair might injure me if I should share it with any other than a sure friend like you. I write to beg that you will serve me as second. You will enter by the Rue Neuve Sainte Catherine. Under the second lamp on the right you will find your adversary. I shall be with mine under the third. Wholly yours, Aramis." D'Artagnan tried to recall his remembrances. He had gone to the rendezvous, had encountered there the adversary indicated, whose name he had never known, had given him a pretty sword stroke on the arm, then had gone toward Aramis, who at the same time came to meet him. Having already finished his affair, "It is over," Aramis had said. "I think I have killed the insolent fellow. But, dear friend, if you ever need me you know that I am entirely devoted to you." Thereupon Aramis had given him a clasp of the hand, and had disappeared under the arcades. So, then, he no more knew where Aramis was than where Athos and Porthos were, and the affair was becoming a matter of great perplexity, when he fancied he heard a pane of glass break in his room window. He thought directly of his bag, and rushed from the inner room where he was sleeping. He was not mistaken as he entered his bedroom. A man was getting in by the window. "Ah, you scoundrel!" cried D'Artagnan, taking the man for a thief and seizing his sword. "Sir," cried the man, "in the name of heaven put your sword back into the sheath. I'm no thief, but an honest citizen, well off in the world, with a house of my own. My name is Saul, but surely you are Monsieur d'Artagnan." "And thou, Planchet?" cried the lieutenant. "At your service, sir," said Planchet, overwhelmed with joy. "If I were still capable of serving you." "Perhaps so," replied D'Artagnan. "But why the devil dost thou run about the tops of houses at 7 o'clock of the morning in the month of January?" "Sir," said Planchet, "you must know, but perhaps you ought not to know." "Tell us what," returned D'Artagnan. "But first put a napkin against the window, and draw the curtains." "Sir," said the prudent Planchet, "in the first place, are you on good terms with Monsieur de Rochefort?" "Perfectly, one of my dearest friends." "Ah, so much the better. But what has de Rochefort to do with this manner you have of invading my room?" "Ah, sir, I must first tell you that Monsieur de Rochefort is—" Planchet hesitated. "Egad, I know where he is," said D'Artagnan. "He's in the Bastille. That is to say, he was there," replied Planchet, "but in returning thither last night, when fortunately you did not accompany him, as his carriage was crossing the Rue de la Ferronnerie, his guards insulted the people, who began to abuse them. The prisoner thought this a good opportunity for escape. I was there. I heard the name of Rochefort. I remembered him well. I said in a loud voice that he was a prisoner, a friend of the Duc de Beaufort, who called for help. The people were infuriated. They stopped the horses and cut the escort to pieces, whilst I opened the doors of the carriage, and Monsieur de Rochefort jumped out, and soon was lost amongst the crowd. At this moment a patrol passed by. I was obliged to sound a retreat toward the Rue Tiquetonne. I was pursued and took refuge in the house next to this, where I have been concealed between two mattresses. This morning I ventured to run along the gutters, and—" "Well," interrupted D'Artagnan, "I am delighted that de Rochefort is free. But as for thee, if thou shouldst fall into the hands of the king's servants, they will hang thee without mercy. Nevertheless, I promise thee thou shalt be hidden here, though I risk by concealing thee neither more nor less than my lieutenancy. If it was found out that I gave one rebel an asylum, ah, sir, you know well I would risk my life for you. Thou mayst add that thou hast risked it. Planchet, I have not forgotten all I owe thee. Sit down there, and eat in security. I see thee cast expressive glances at the remains of my supper. Yes, sir, for all I've had since yesterday was a slice of bread and butter, with preserves on it. Although I don't despise sweet things in proper time and place, I found the supper rather light. Poor fellow, said D'Artagnan. Well, come set to. Ah, sir, you are going to save my life a second time, cried Planchet, and he seated himself at the table and ate as he did in the merry days of the Rue des Fossoyeurs, whilst D'Artagnan walked to and fro and thought how he could make use of Planchet under present circumstances. While he turned this over in his mind, Planchet did his best to make up for lost time at table. At last he uttered a sigh of satisfaction and paused, as if he had partially appeased his hunger. "Come," said D'Artagnan, who thought that it was now a convenient time to begin his interrogations, "dost thou know where Athos is?" "No, sir," replied Planchet. "The devil thou dost know where Porthos is?" "No, not at all." "And Aramis?" "Not in the least." "The devil, the devil, the devil! But, sir," said Planchet, with a look of shrewdness, "I know where Bazin is.